Yarn to
3.5
fabric.
Yarn to fabric.
There are many ways by which fabrics are made from
There are many ways by which fabrics are made from yarns.
The two main processes are weaving
The two main
and
processes
knitting.
are weaving and knitting.
Weaving. In activity
Weaving.
2, you might have
In
noticed
activity
that
2,
a fabric is made up of two sets of
you might have noticed that a fabric is made up of two sets of yarns arranged together.
yarns.
The process of arranging two sets of yarns together to make a fabric is called weaving.
The process of arranging two sets of yarns together, fabric is
Let us
called
try to
weaving.
weave some paper strips.
5.
Activity 5.
Take two sheets of paper of different colors.
Take two sheets of paper of different colors.
Cut square pieces of length
Cut
and
square
width
pieces of length and width equal to 30
equal to
centimeter
30
from each
centimeter
sheet.
from each sheet.
Now fold both the sheets into half.
Now fold both the sheets into half.
On one sheet, draw lines as shown in the figure
On one sheet, draw
3.12a
lines as shown in the figure 3.12
and on the other as shown in figure 3.12b. Page 22. Cut both the sheets along the dotted lines and then unfold. Weave the strips one by one through the cuts in the
and
sheet
on the
of paper
other
as shown in figure 3.12c.
B.
Figure 3.12d shows the pattern after weaving all the strips.
Page 22. Cut both the sheets along the dotted lines and then unfold.
Continue.
In a similar manner, two sets of yarn are woven to make a fabric.
The yarns are much thinner than
The
our
yarns
paper
are much
strips.
thinner than our paper strips.
Of course, weaving of fabric is done on looms.
Of course, weaving of fabric is done on looms.
As shown in figure 3.13.
As shown in figure 3.13.
The looms are either hand operated
The
or
looms are
power
either
operated.
hand operated or power operated.
Shows
Figure
weaving with paper
3.12
strips.
shows weaving with paper strips.
Continue.
3.13 shows hand loom.
Knitting.
Continue.
How
Knitting.
sweaters are knitted?
Have you noticed how sweaters are knitted? In knitting, a single yarn is used to make a piece of fabric.
In knitting, a single yarn is
As
used
shown
to
in
make
figure
a piece of fabric.
3.14.
As shown in figure 3.14.
Have you ever pulled the yarn from a torn pair of socks?
Ever pulled the yarn from a torn pair of socks? What happens? A single yarn gets pulled out
What happens?
continuously
A
as the
single
fabric
yarn
gets
gets pulled out
unraveled.
continuously as the fabric gets unraveled. Socks and many other clothing items are made of knitted fabrics. Knitting is done by hand and also
Socks
on
are made
machines.
of knitted
Figure
fabrics.
3.14 shows knitting. Here is a picture of Paheli. She wants to know if you have seen any
Knitting is
fabrics
done
that
by
are made of
hand
the
and
fibers
also
on
on
the outer
machines.
covering of coconut. What are these fibers normally used for? Page
3.14 shows
23.
knitting.
Weaving and knitting are used for making different kinds of fabric. These fabrics are used for a variety of clothing items.
Here is a picture of Paheli. She wants to know if you have seen any fabrics that are made of the fibers of clothing material.
3.6 History of clothing material.
Have you ever wondered what materials people used in ancient times?
Stop.
Have you ever wondered what materials people used in ancient times for clothes?
It appears that in
those times people used the bark and big leaves of trees or animal skins and furs to cover
animal
themselves.
skins and furs to cover themselves.
Stop.
After people began to settle in agricultural communities,
After people began to settle in agricultural communities,
Start.
they learned to weave twigs and grass into mats and baskets.
Stop.
they learned to weave twigs and grass into mats and baskets.
Start.
Vines, animal fleece or hair
Vines, animal fleece, or hair
were twisted together into long strands.
were twisted together into long strands.
Start.
These were woven into
fabrics.
Start.
The early fabrics
The
made
early
out of
Indians
cotton
wore fabrics made out of cotton that grew in the regions near the river Ganga.
that grew in the regions near the river Ganga.
Continue.
That gives
Flax is
natural
also a
fibers.
plant that gives natural fibers.
Continue.
In cotton
In
as well
ancient
as flax,
Egypt, cotton as well as flax were cultivated near the river Nile and were used for making fabrics.
Continue.
were cultivated near the river Nile and were used for making fabrics. Stitching was
In those
not
days,
known.
stitching was not known.
Start.
People simply draped the fabrics around different
People
parts of their
simply
body.
draped the fabrics around different parts of their body.
Start.
Many different ways of draping fabrics were
Many
used.
different ways of draping fabrics were used.
Start.
With the invention
With the invention of the sewing needle, people started stitching fabrics to make clothes.
Start.
Stitched clothes have gone through
Stitched
many
clothes have
variations
gone
since
through
this
many
invention.
variations since this invention.
Start.
But
But is it not
Start.
amazing that even today, sari, dhoti, lungi, or turban
Start.
is used as an unstitched piece of fabric?
Start.
Just as there is a large variety
Just
in the
as there
food
is a
eaten
large
all over
variety
our
in the
country,
food eaten all over our country, a large variety exists also in
a
fabrics
large
and
variety
clothing
exists
items.
also in fabrics and clothing items. From cotton
Here,
rolls
step-by-step process is shown,
Start.
starting from cotton
with
rolls,
the process of
with
ginning
the process of
becomes
ginning
fiber,
becomes fiber,
Start.
with the
with the
process of
process of
spinning
spinning
becomes
becomes
yarn.
yarn.
Start.
And yarn can be made
And yarn
fabric
can be made fabric by knitting or weaving.
Start.
by knitting or weaving. Keyword: there is a
Summary.
variety of clothing material or fabric
Stop.
There is a variety of clothing material or fabric
Start.
such as
cotton,
silk,
silk, wool, and polyester.
wool, and polyester.
Page 24.
Start.
Fabrics are made from yarns, which in turn are made
Fabrics
from
are
fibers.
made from yarns, which in turn are made from fibers.
Fibers are either natural or synthetic. Co-
Fibers are either natural or synthetic.
Cotton, wool, silk, and jute.
Cotton, wool, silk, and jute are some natural fibers.
While nylon and polyester are some examples of synthetic fibers.
While
Fibers
nylon and polyester are some examples of synthetic fibers. Fibers like cotton and jute are obtained from plants. The process of making yarn from fibers
like
is
cotton
called
and jute
spinning.
are exercises.
Exercises.
Classify the following fibers as natural or
1.
synthetic.
Classify the following fibers as natural or synthetic.
Nylon, wool,
Nylon, wool,
cotton, silk,
Cotton,
polyester,
silk, polyester,
jute.
jute.
State whether
2.
the following statements are true
State
or false.
whether the following
A.
statements are true or false.
Yarn is
A.
made from fibers.
Yarn is made from fibers.
Spinning is a
B.
process of making fibers.
Spinning is a process of making fibers.
C. Jute is the outer
C.
covering of coconut.
Jute is the outer covering of coconut.
Seed from
D. The process of removing seed from cotton is called
cotton
ginning.
is called ginning. E. Fabric.
E. Weaving of yarn makes a piece of fabric.
Obtained from the
F.
stem of a plant.
Silk fiber is obtained from the stem of a plant.
Polyester is a
G.
natural fiber.
Polyester is a natural fiber.
Blanks.
3.
A.
Fill in the
Plant
blanks.
fibers are obtained from blank.
A. Plant fibers are obtained from blank and blank. B.
Animals
Animals fibers
blank
are
and
blank
blank.
and blank.
Which parts of the
4.
plant cotton and jute are obtained?
From which parts of the plant cotton and jute are obtained?
Five. Name two items that are made from coconut
5.
fiber.
Name two items that are made from coconut fiber.
Explain the
6.
process of making yarn from fiber.
Explain the process of making yarn from fiber.
Activities.
Suggested projects and activities.
1.
1. Visit a nearby handloom or power loom unit and observe the weaving
Or
or
power
knitting
loom
of
unit.
fabric.
And observe the weaving or knitting of fabric. If any
2.
crop is grown in your region for
Find out if any crop is grown in your region for obtaining fiber. If yes, what is it used
obtaining
for?
fiber. If yes, what is it used for? A major
3.
producer of cotton
India has been a major producer of cotton and its
and
fabric.
its fabric. India exports cotton fabrics and items
India
to
exports
many other
cotton
countries.
fabrics and items to many other countries.
Find out
Find
how
out
it
how
helps
it
us.
helps us.
Page 4.
Page
Do you know
25.
that famous Sufi saint
4. Do you know that famous Sufi saint and poet Kabir was a weaver?
was a weaver? Find out about his life and teachings.
Find out about his life and teachings.
5. You can do an activity to identify the yarn.
5. You can do an activity to identify the yarns of a fabric under the supervision of your teacher or parents.
Of a fabric.
Stop.
Under the supervision of your teacher or parents.
Continue.
Pull out 6 to 8 yarns from the fabric.
Stop.
Pull out 6 to 8 yarns from the fabric.
Hold one end of the yarn with a tongue.
Hold one end of the yarn with a tongue and bring the other end over the flame of a candle.
And bring the other end over the flame of a candle.
एक मिनट स्टॉप करना. Continue.
Observe carefully.
Observe carefully.
Do the yarns shrink away from the flame?
Do the yarns shrink away from the flame?
Start.
Do the yarns melt or burn?
Do the yarns melt or burn?
What type of odor is given off?
What type of odor is given off?
Continue.
Note down your observations.
Note down your observations.
Yarns,
If
burn
these are
but do
cotton
not
yarns,
shrink or
they
melt.
burn but do not shrink or melt. The burning yarns gives an odor similar to burning paper.
Start.
The burning yarns gives an odor similar to burning paper.
Start.
The silk yarn shrinks away
The
from
silk
the flame.
yarn shrinks away from the flame and burns but does not melt. It has the odor of charred meat.
And burns but does not melt.
Start.
It has the odor of charred meat.
Start.
The wool yarn also shrinks and burns but does
The
not
wool yarn
melt.
also shrinks and burns but does not melt. It has a strong odor of burning hair.
Start.
It has a strong odor of burning hair.
Start.
The synthetic yarns shrink and burn.
The synthetic yarns shrink and burn. They also melt and give out an odor similar to burning plastics.
Start.
also melt and give out an odor similar to burning plastics. Burning of cotton
Here,
yarn gives
Bojo
an odor
knows that
similar to
burning of
burning
cotton
paper.
yarn gives an
He is-
odor similar to burning paper.
Is wondering if he can assume
He is
that
wondering
paper is
if
also
he
made
can
from
assume
plants.
that paper is also made from plants.